I actually found that journal recently, and it was pretty funny to go back to, 17-year-old me and see how thankful I was for certain boys and for just these really silly things. It seems silly. But she taught us the discipline of gratitude so that it became really easy to be thankful all the time. Because we were always looking for where God was working, what he was doing for us. And so it just became a part of who we are. The Bible tells us over and over again to be thankful, and some of those verses are Colossians 3:15, which just states, always be thankful. 1 Thessalonians 5 says, always be joyful, never stop praying, be thankful in all circumstances, for this is God's will. In Philippians 4, we also see where he says, always be full of joy in the Lord. I say it again, rejoice. Later down he says, do not worry about anything, instead pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank him for all he has done. Then you will experience God's peace, which exceeds anything that we can understand. Later on, that's also where he says he's learned to be content no matter the circumstances, and that we can do all things because of Jesus. So all of this is easy to do when life is easy, when life is going well. But what do we do when the absolute worst possible thing happens? So let's see if I can get through this. So 2.5 years ago, my husband and I became parents, and our little Victoria was born on July 30th, 2014. We called her Tori. She was the perfect baby and never fussy. It was a pure joy. And when she was about 5 months old, it was like a switch flipped. She became incredibly irritable, fussy, and we could tell that she was in pain. So we started seeking a diagnosis, trying to figure out what was wrong with our perfect baby girl. And 6 weeks later, we were told that our baby was dying. It turns out she was born with a terminal genetic disease called Krabbe Disease, which affects the brain. Worst part is, we found out if they had caught it at birth, they could have treated it. So, side note, this is now my current campaign, and I'm actually using my bachelor's degree because I have a lot of lobbying to do. But throughout all of this, we obviously, especially at the beginning, we grieved because she was only 6 months old. And we were told she might not live to be more than 2, which she didn't. But it was maybe only 2 weeks afterward that my husband and I were talking, and we said, you know what? We are not going to live life like this with her. Because she knew that we were in pain. She knew that we were hurting. And we decided, you know what? We are going to cling to what we know is true. We know that God is faithful, that he is just, that he is good, that he is loving, and that nothing that happens in this life is out of his control. So at that point, we decided, you know what, we're going to choose joy. Because joy is a choice, gratitude is a choice. All of these things are absolutely a choice you have to make every single day. And so we created a bucket list for her. We started a Facebook page to spread her story. She has about 14,000 followers still. And we just decided we were going to live life with Tori. And we did. And throughout the entire thing, God proved that he is everything that he said that he is. Tori passed away on Easter Sunday of this year. It wasn't, it was kind of expected, but we didn't know it was going to happen then, and we did think that she was going to make it through the summer and live to be 2. But in hindsight, we can actually see that everything that happened around her death was completely in God's control. We had planned to go to California on March 17th to see my family. And she was on oxygen by this point, so we had to have medical permission. Her specialist in Pittsburgh called us 3 hours before we were supposed to get on the plane and said, do not go because it will probably kill her, because she had too much fluid in her brain. In an act of desperation, because I selfishly really needed to go see my family, I told my husband, let's just drive. Let's be crazy and drive 40 hours across the country and let's do it. We made it to Cleveland. And then we were just too tired. Well, my parents just happened to have gotten their tax refund and had enough money like just the day before, to buy last minute plane tickets, and they came out, and my mom said, we're going to rent a motorhome, and we're going to take a trip, because we had to get Tori out of the house so that a kitchen renovation could happen. So she said, we're going to go on a trip, and we're going to make the most of this. And I said, okay. So my husband kept his time off. We spent 10 days together as a family, well, 9 days together as a family. Touring New England, she got to do some more bucket list things, and the whole time the weather was pushing us home because there was a threat of ice everywhere we were. So we came home on March 26th, which was also my mom's birthday, and Tori had what we called a blue episode that evening, which is where she stopped breathing and her numbers dropped. Her oxygen saturation dropped down to 4% that night, but she didn't die. So then that next morning, this is where I don't know if I get through it. At 5 a.m., my husband and I had to alternate sleeping in different beds for 14 months because of her around-the-clock care. So I actually got to sleep that night. 5 o'clock, my phone's ringing, and my heart sank, and I ran downstairs, and she was gone. So my parents came upstairs, because remember I said they just happened to be able to come? Not just happened. They ran upstairs, my dad was holding her, and Brendan and I, my husband, were making all the calls we had to make. And it was just so bizarre, because we thought we had more time. And 15 minutes later, she started breathing again. We have a stethoscope, we know that she was gone. And we've been praying for her healing, and we thought maybe she's coming back. Her eyes popped open, she was alive. Hospice came, they said, we don't know what to tell you because her numbers are perfect. Sorry, most time. I have 3 minutes. And so we said, okay, well, we've only had 2 hours of sleep. We're just gonna lay back in the bed. And our only prayer had been the entire time, like, God, if you're gonna take her, then let us all be there and let us be at home. If we'd been in California, we would have either been on a plane when she died, or we would have been in a car trying to drive back across the country. But God made sure that we were home. So about 9 o'clock, she went for real. And that's how we said it's okay. Because we knew that when she woke up, she was in the arms of Jesus. And so I say all of that to say that we learned through this that because of our focus on who God is and the fact that He didn't take our daughter away, that has nothing to do with Him, that has to do with the fallen world, with genetics that get mutated, that we can't do anything about. But because of gratitude, we have peace, we have joy, we have contentment, because we've learned that gratitude is the antidote to anger and grief and all of those things. If you are grateful for what you have, if we are grateful for the 20 months that we had with her, then we are not overcome with sorrow and grief. And so even though people look at us and they think, like, are you sure that you're dealing with this? We say, yes, we are. Because we know exactly where she is. We know that we will join her again someday, but not yet. And in the meantime, we're going to continue to choose joy and to choose gratitude. So in conclusion, just trust God. Trust what His Word says, because He is good, He is loving, He is faithful, and He is in control even when you can't see it. And your gratitude should never be based on your circumstances, but it should be based on Jesus.